Hello everyone, and welcome to this complete Claude Certified Architect Foundations series. Whether you're preparing for the certification or you're a software engineer looking to build production AI systems, this series is designed for you. Now, a lot of people come into this thinking the certification is mostly about writing clever prompts. But that's actually not the main focus at all. The certification is built around one central question. Can you design AI systems that work reliably in production? That's the mindset you need for the exam, and honestly, it's also the mindset companies care about when they're hiring people to build real AI products. Throughout this playlist, we'll be covering three of the most important topics in the certification: prompt engineering, context management, and AI workflows. In future videos, we'll also go deep on MCP, AI architecture, tool design, error handling, and several production design patterns. But today, we are starting with context engineering. So, what exactly is context engineering? Here's a common misconception. A lot of people think context engineering simply means giving the AI more information. But in production systems, more information isn't always better. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you're hiring a new employee. Would you hand them a 500-page manual, 50 old emails, and 20 meeting transcripts, and then just say, "Good luck"? Probably not. Instead, you tell them what their task is, explain the important rules, give them the current status, share the documents they actually need, and fill them in on the relevant history. AI systems work exactly the same way. Context engineering is the process of selecting, organizing, and maintaining the information an AI system needs to complete its task. Not too much information and not too little. The goal is to provide the right information at the right time, in the right format. One of the most important concepts in the certification is something called context hierarchy. Think of context as existing in different layers. At the very top, we have system instructions. These are permanent rules that never change. Things like never leak private information, always verify customer identity, and never fabricate financial data. Below that, we have developer instructions. These are application specific. For example, refunds above $500 require escalation, use markdown formatting, or keep responses under 200 words. Next comes the user conversation. This is the current interaction, including questions, requests, and preferences. Then we have tool outputs, which includes things like database results, API responses, and search results. And finally, we have external memory. This covers customer records, long-term preferences, and structured state. The exam often tests where information belongs, so here's a useful rule of thumb. If it's a permanent rule, it belongs in the system prompt. If it's a customer preference, it belongs in external memory. And if it's the current question, it belongs in the conversation. Now let's talk about Claude's context architecture specifically. Claude doesn't treat context as one giant block of text. Instead, it treats context as a living system. Information enters and information leaves. System prompts, conversations, tool outputs, retrieved documents, structured memory, the current task, and the model's response all work together as part of that system. A poorly designed architecture keeps everything forever. A well-designed architecture keeps useful information, compresses old information, refreshes stale information, and removes irrelevant details. That's one of the biggest ideas in the entire certification. Now let's go through some sample exam questions. Question 1. You're building a customer support assistant. The conversation has gone on for a long time. The customer has asked about refunds, subscription cancellation, payment disputes, and address changes. Near the end, they ask, "Can you remind me what happened with my refund?" The chat history is enormous at this point. What's the best design? The best approach is to store structured issue states separately. Here's why. The assistant doesn't need every single sentence from the conversation. It only needs the important operational facts, things like the refund approval, the refund amount, the refund ID, and the current status. Structured state uses fewer tokens, improves reliability, and significantly reduces hallucinations. For the exam, remember this shortcut. Long conversations usually point towards structured memory. Question 2. A meal planning assistant has been working with someone for several weeks. The user is vegetarian, has a peanut allergy, prefers high-protein meals, and likes low-sodium food. But the conversation keeps growing longer and longer. What's the best approach? The answer is to extract the important preferences into structured memory and summarize everything else. Not every conversation deserves permanent storage. Critical preferences should be kept, while small talk can safely be removed. The rule to remember here is this: long-term preferences become structured memory. Question 3. A customer comes back after 2 days. The old stored information says their refund is pending, but fresh backend data shows the refund has already been completed. Which should the assistant trust? Always trust the fresh retrieval. Tool outputs become stale over time. History gives you context, but fresh data gives you truth. Always prefer current information when there's a conflict. Exam shortcut: fresh retrieval beats stale history. Question 4. A RAG system retrieves 80 document chunks, and many of them contain duplicate information. What's the best solution? The answer is semantic deduplication and compression. A bigger context is not the answer here. Keeping duplicates wastes tokens and introduces noise. The system should remove repeated information, compress the results, and send only what actually matters. Exam shortcut: large RAG pipeline means think compression. Question 5. A customer provides their name, account number, and verification code at the start of a conversation. But later in the same session, the assistant asks, "What's your name again? What's the most likely problem?" The conversation history simply wasn't included in the request. LLMs don't magically remember previous turns. Every API request needs to include the relevant history. If previous messages aren't sent along, the assistant cannot see them. Exam shortcut: memory problems usually mean missing context. Question 6. An AI travel planner has discussed budget, hotel preferences, vegetarian meals, window seats, tourist attractions, and lots of casual conversation with the user. The context window is becoming too large. What's the best solution? Extract the long-term preferences and summarize everything else. The assistant doesn't need to remember every joke or every tangential discussion. It should preserve the information that affects future decisions, like budget, dietary needs, and travel preferences. Those belong in structured memory. Now let's move on to another major topic in the Claude Certified Architect Foundation's certification: prompt engineering. A lot of people think prompt engineering is about writing long, complicated prompts. You've probably seen examples that start with something like, "You are the world's smartest AI assistant with 50 years of experience. Always provide perfect answers and never make mistakes." That might sound impressive, but production AI systems don't actually work that way. A good prompt isn't about being longer. It's about being clearer. The goal of prompt engineering is to reduce ambiguity, improve reliability, and make the AI behave consistently across different situations. So what exactly is a prompt? At its core, a prompt is simply information given to the model. For example, if you say, "Summarize this article," that's a prompt. A better version might be, "Summarize this article in 5 bullet points for beginners." And an even better version could say, "Summarize this article in exactly 5 bullet points." Keep each point under 20 words and avoid technical language. Notice what's happening with each iteration. We are reducing ambiguity. The AI knows exactly what's expected, and that's what good prompt engineering is all about. Another important exam topic is prompt hierarchy. Not all instructions carry the same priority. Think of it like 3 different managers giving instructions to the same employee. Which one should the employee listen to first? The hierarchy works like this. First comes the system prompt, which has the highest priority. These define permanent behavior. Things like, never reveal confidential information, never fabricate financial records, and always explain investment risks. These rules apply to every single conversation. Next come developer prompts, which are specific to the application. For example, use Markdown formatting, keep responses short, ask for confirmation before purchases, or return JSON output. And finally, we have the user prompt. This is the current request: booking a flight, writing Python code, Summarizing a document. The model tries to satisfy the user's request as long as it doesn't violate any higher priority instructions. Here's the exam shortcut. Permanent behavior belongs in the system prompt. Application behavior belongs in the developer prompt. And the current request belongs in the user prompt. A good prompt usually contains 4 simple components: a role, a task, constraints, and an output format. Here's a concrete example. Role: you are a travel assistant. Task: suggest 3 destinations. Constraints: keep the budget under $1,000. Output format: return the answer as a markdown table. That's clean, structured, and easy for the model to follow. Now let's talk about clarification. Should an assistant always ask questions before acting? The answer is no, not always. Imagine someone says, "Set up my focus music." That could mean several things. Maybe they want to create a playlist. Maybe they want to start playback. Maybe they want to configure an automation. In a case like this, the assistant should ask one focused clarification question. Something like, "Would you like me to create a playlist or start playing music?" One question resolves the biggest uncertainty without creating unnecessary friction. That's exactly what the certification recommends. This connects to another important concept: user friction. Imagine a restaurant booking assistant that asks for the date, time, number of people, indoor or outdoor seating, smoking preference, budget, occasion, and dietary preferences, all before doing anything. Analytics show that users are abandoning the booking before it's even complete. What's the problem? The assistant is asking too many questions. Good assistants make reasonable assumptions and then allow users to correct them. For example, the assistant could say, "I'll assume dinner for 2 this evening unless you'd prefer something different." That's faster, more natural, and dramatically improves completion rates. Structured outputs are another major topic you'll encounter on the exam. Suppose an order gets approved. A poor response might be something like, "Your order looks good and should probably be approved." That's vague and hard for another system to process. A better response would look like this: status, approved. Amount, 500. Requires review, false. Structured outputs are much easier for downstream systems to work with because machines don't need to interpret long paragraphs. They simply read the fields they need. The certification strongly favors structured JSO outputs wherever automation is involved. Let's also briefly cover the main prompting techniques. Zero-shot prompting means the model receives instructions without any examples. One-shot prompting provides a single example to guide the model. Few-shot prompting provides several examples. Chain-of-thought prompting allows the model to reason step by step before arriving at an answer. And role prompting asks the model to adopt a specific persona, such as act as a senior Java developer or act as a financial advisor. Different techniques work better for different types of problems, so it's worth knowing when to use each one. Let's go through some sample questions for prompt engineering. Question 1. A smart home assistant hears the request, "Set up my focus music." Several interpretations are possible. What's the best response? Ask one focused clarification question. A single question resolves the biggest uncertainty without creating friction. Guessing could produce the wrong result entirely. Exam shortcut. When there's ambiguity, ask one clarification question. Question 3. An investment assistant must always explain risks, never guarantee profits, and never invent market data. Where should these rules live? In the system prompt. These are permanent behavioral rules that must apply to every conversation, without exception. Exam shortcut. Permanent behavior belongs in the system prompt. Question 4. A coding assistant serves beginners, students, professional engineers, and senior architects. The current prompt contains hundreds of if statements to handle each case. What's the best improvement? Use adaptive prompting principles. Instead of hard-coding every possibility, allow the model to naturally adjust its language and depth based on the user's apparent knowledge level. This keeps the prompt clean and easy to maintain. Exam shortcut. Mixed expertise suggests adaptive prompting. Question 5. An invoice extraction system returns the response. The total appears to be around $250. Another application needs to process this automatically. What's the better design? Structured JSON. Machines need explicit fields, amount, currency, confidence, review status. Structured outputs make automation reliable. Exam shortcut. Machine-readable output means choose JSON. Question 6. A support assistant can check order status. The prompt says, use tools whenever appropriate. But sometimes the assistant guesses instead of checking. What's the best fix? Provide explicit tool instructions. Tell the assistant exactly when to call tools, how to use the results, and that it should never invent information. Exam shortcut. Tool usage means explicit tool prompting. Now let's move on to the third and final major topic for today, AI workflows. This is one of the most important sections in the certification, and it's also where many candidates lose marks. Why? Because they imagine an AI system works in a very simple, linear way. A user asks a question, the model thinks, the model answers, and the process ends there. In reality, production AI systems almost never work like that. A single request might involve multiple tools, external databases, several AI agents, human approvals, retry mechanisms, state management, and parallel execution happening all at once. The certification expects you to think like a system architect, not just someone who writes prompts. So what is an AI workflow? At its core, an AI workflow is the sequence of steps an AI system follows to complete a task. Here's a simple example. A customer asks, "Where is my order?" The workflow might look like this: receive the request, verify the customer, look up the order, generate a response. And that's an important principle worth noting. Simple tasks should use simple workflows. Don't over-engineer a problem that doesn't need it. But complex tasks may genuinely require complex workflows, and that's where architecture thinking becomes critical. Now let's talk about agentic workflows. Traditional software follows fixed rules. AI workflows are different because they can adapt based on new information as it comes in. Imagine a customer says, "I want to return my order." The AI verifies the customer, looks up the order, and discovers the purchase was made 45 days ago. The item is electronics, and the warranty is still active. Now the system has to decide what to do next. Should it automatically issue a refund? Should it offer a repair? Should it check the return policy? Should it escalate to a human? The answer depends entirely on the information the system just discovered. This creates a repeating cycle. Think, call a tool, observe the result. Think again, call another tool. Continue until the task is complete. This flexible, adaptive approach is what we call an agentic workflow. Closely related to this is the concept of tool loops. Modern AI systems rarely call one tool and immediately stop. Let me walk you through an example. Someone asks the AI about a document. First, the AI needs to find the document, so it searches for it. The document is found. Next, the AI needs more details, so it fetches the full document. After reading it, the AI analyzes the contents. Finally, it generates the summary the user asked for. Notice the pattern: think, act, observe, repeat. The output from one tool informs the next action. That chain of reasoning is what makes agentic systems powerful. Now let's discuss multi-agent systems. Should one AI agent handle every possible task? In most cases, no. Large production systems often use specialized agents. Imagine a research project where one agent searches for information, another analyzes the data, another writes the report, and another reviews the final result. Each agent specializes in one responsibility, and that specialization improves both quality and maintainability. But here's an important question. Should these agents communicate directly with each other? Generally, they should not. Instead, a coordinator manages the entire process. This is called the coordinator pattern. The coordinator receives the task, delegates work to the right agents, collects the results, combines the outputs, and delivers the final response. This keeps communication organized and the system predictable. The certification strongly prefers coordinator-managed systems over unrestricted peer-to-peer communication between agents. Another critical production concept is retry architecture. Real systems fail, networks go down, servers crash, APIs time out, rate limits get hit. A well-designed workflow doesn't panic when something goes wrong. Instead, it asks one simple question: can this operation safely be retried? Transient failures, like a temporary network hiccup, can often be retried successfully. Permanent failures, like an invalid account number, cannot be fixed by retrying. A good system knows the difference and handles each case appropriately. Let's also talk about parallel execution. Suppose three tasks are completely independent of each other. One searches a topic, one analyzes customer feedback, and one generates statistics. Should these happen one after another? Absolutely not. The coordinator should launch all three at the same time. Independent work should always run in parallel. Once everything is complete, the coordinator combines the results. This reduces waiting time, improves overall performance, and makes the system more scalable. It's a very commonly tested topic in the certification. Human escalation is another important concept. AI should not try to solve every problem on its own. Sometimes company policy requires human approval. Sometimes the user specifically asks to speak with a person. And sometimes the AI simply cannot make further progress. A good workflow recognizes when to stop and involve a human. And here's an important detail about how that handoff should happen. Humans should not receive a giant wall of chat transcripts. They should receive structured, organized information, the customer ID, a clear issue summary, the current status, evidence collected, and a recommended action. Structured handoffs save time and reduce the chance of costly mistakes. Finally, let's cover state persistence. Imagine a long-running research workflow. The system completes several expensive steps, and then the server crashes. Should the entire process start over from scratch? No, the workflow should be saving its progress along the way. When the system comes back online, it should resume from exactly where it left off. This makes workflows more resilient and much more cost-effective. Now let's go through the sample questions for AI workflows. Question 1. A support assistant checks an order. The tool reports the item was purchased 45 days ago. It's an electronic product, and the warranty is still active. How should the next action be chosen? The model should reason over the tool output and decide the next step based on what it found. Agentic workflows adapt based on new information, not on predefined scripts. Exam shortcut: observe first, then decide. Question 2. A coordinator successfully plans work for several subagents, but none of the subagents actually execute their tasks. What's the most likely problem? The coordinator lacks task execution capability. Planning and execution are separate responsibilities. The coordinator understands what should happen but doesn't have the ability to actually delegate the work. Exam shortcut: if the coordinator can think but not act, it's missing execution capability. Question 3. A legal AI system needs to analyze 100 independent contracts. The current workflow processes them one by one. What's the best improvement? Run the analysis in parallel. Independent work should never wait for unrelated tasks. Parallel execution improves both speed and efficiency significantly. Exam shortcut: independent tasks suggest parallel execution. Question 4. A refund assistant successfully verifies everything, and the customer qualifies for a refund. But the refund API times out. The system never confirms whether the refund went through. What's the best response? Explain the uncertainty clearly, and either offer to retry or escalate to a human. A timeout doesn't mean success, and it doesn't mean failure either. The system simply doesn't know the final state. Never invent certainty where there is none. Exam shortcut: timeout means unknown state. Question 5. A research workflow completes several expensive steps. Then the server crashes. The user comes back later expecting their work to still be there. What's the best architecture? Persist the structured workflow state throughout execution so it can be resumed. Long-running workflows must survive interruptions. Exam shortcut: a pipeline crash means resume from saved state. Question 6. A banking assistant detects suspicious activity. It verifies the customer's identity, collects transaction history, and identifies possible fraud. Company policy now requires human approval before any action is taken. What should the assistant send to the human reviewer? A structured handoff, not a raw conversation transcript. The reviewer should receive the important facts cleanly: customer ID, current findings, risk level, and recommended action. Structured handoffs save time and reduce the risk of errors. Exam shortcut. Human escalation means structured state transfer. And that brings us to the end of the three biggest topics in the Claude Certified Architect Foundation's certification. We've covered context engineering, prompt engineering, and AI workflows. If you understand these three areas deeply, you're already thinking beyond just prompt writing. You're thinking like an AI architect. In the upcoming videos, we'll go into AI architecture, the model context protocol, tool design, error handling, production reliability, and several advanced certification topics. If you found this series helpful, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you learned something new today, a like really does help support future content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.